Hello, welcome to another Let's Talk Music. Today we're going to be talking about Guns N' Roses' Appetite for Destruction, and we are completely winging this bitch. I don't have any notes. Granted, my notes are generally very sparse. Generally, it's like a couple bullet points, like make sure you hit this, make sure you hit this, make sure you hit this. But today we're going to talk about Appetite for Destruction, which I do have on CD, cassette tape, and vinyl. I'm also planning on getting this Guns N' Roses cross tattooed on my forearm this summer, so that'll hopefully happen. But Guns N' Roses, for those of you who are somehow unaware and still watching this, Guns N' Roses is a band from the 80s. I think they are some sort of weird amalgamation of thrash metal, heavy metal. They call themselves rock and roll because there's nothing else to call them. You got Slash, and he's the most important one. I don't know when I became such a Slash fangirl. I mean, Steven Adler was always like my man. Like, Steven Adler's smile could, like melt the ice that froze over hell if hell froze over. But lately I've been on like this huge Slash kick. I don't know. I think it's how he looks in the 1988 Live at the Ritz and Night Train. You know what I mean. If you've seen it, you know what I mean. But basically, I'm not going to talk too much about Guns N' Roses because this is mostly about this album, which was the best album that they ever made, and they could never recreate it. But Guns N' Roses, you've got, of course, Axl, Izzy, Duff, Slash, and Steven. You got, obviously your vocalist, rhythm guitar, bass, lead guitar, drummer. This is the only album with this line, the only studio album with this lineup. There are certain songs on other things and other whatevers that have this lineup, but this is, I think, for many Guns N' Roses fans, the Guns N' Roses lineup. And the reason for that is because very shortly after Appetite for Destruction, or I guess very shortly before Use Your Illusion really started getting going, Mr. Steven Adler was kicked out of the band. Everybody has their stories. Drugs were involved, but Appetite for Destruction was their first album, and I know a lot of people. I've seen a lot of people like literally name one band where their first album was the best album, and whenever anybody says that, I just kind of hold up Appetite, because to me, Appetite for Destruction is like the perfect fucking album. And I mean, I know I'm a huge Metallica fan. I love Master Puppets. I've called Master Puppets like the best album ever created before, but there's something about Appetite for Destruction that no other album can ever touch. And I mean, when it comes to the songs on this album, I am in love with all of them except for like Out to Get Me and You're Crazy. Everything else I absolutely love. I mean, Welcome to the Jungle, It's So Easy, Night Train, Mr. Brownstone, Paradise City, My Michelle, Think About You, Sweet Child of Mine, Anything Goes, and Rocket Queen. They're all just like 10 out of 10 songs. And the other two, they're like 8 out of 10 songs. If they were on any other album, they'd be fantastic. And the thing about Appetite for Destruction, I think, what makes it the best is you've got that lineup. That is the perfect Guns N' Roses lineup in terms of musical sound together. I mean, you've got two groups that had known each other forever. You got Slash and Steven, you got Izzy and Axl, and then you got Duff coming in from Seattle to kind of glue them together. These two grew up in California, these two in Indiana, and you got our little punk there, Duff, coming in to kind of form the glue. And so they already kind of know how to play with each other. They already kind of know how they work. And so I think the thing about it was that, I mean, you got those ones that already knew each other, but then also Duff and Steven clicked in the rhythm, Slash and Axl clicked in the leads, and everything. And then Izzy Stradlin, and he just wrote a bunch of great songs. But everything just clicked, and it was such a volatile group that like there was no way it could have ever lasted very long. Like, I think looking at the group, looking at the personalities in the group, there's no way that group could have lasted for any longer than one album. And I do think that we got lucky that we did get an album at all, because I feel like with the group, with the egos and with the drug problems and everything, with the mental health issues, there was no way that this band in this form was going to last very long. And at this point, Guns N' Roses is Axl Rose. I know, like, I think he's got Duff and Slash back now. No Steven, no Izzy. And without Steven and Izzy, Guns N' Roses is not the Guns N' Roses that made Appetite for Destruction. Appetite for Destruction is desperate, sleazy, and completely in your face, and it does not care what you think about that. The lyrics in songs like It's So Easy and Night Train are so sleazy. Like I keep using, like, it is just a sleaze fest like that Motley Crue could only fucking dream of. Like the drums, like I can't get over the drums. I think the drums is what really originally sold me on Guns N' Roses. Like, everybody knows that Slash is a fantastic guitarist, but nobody fucking talks about how great of a drummer Steven Adler is. And you can tell that it's all instinctual. Like, Steven Adler was born to be a fucking drummer. And whenever I read anything about Guns N' Roses, particularly about Appetite for Destruction, because he wasn't around for that long, I am always just incensed at how little people tend to mention Steven Adler. This has turned into a Steven Adler video, I'm sorry. But that is something that I always notice about Appetite, is the fucking drum line. And that is something that I think is what made Appetite so great. It's the drum line. And I am normally so much more of a guitar person. Like, I just like a good guitar part, a good solo, a good riff, just like melts me. But, and that is true. That is true with Guns N' Roses. That is true with Slash. However, what really sold me on this album being one of the greatest albums ever created was the drum. Yeah, Slash is great. There are a million great guitarists out there. And there are a million great drummers too. But I don't remember half as many drummers as I do guitarists. Like, I mean, drumming, obviously, your drums are part of your rhythm. They're in the background, and your lead guitarists are out there, tearing it up. But and this one, I started to really notice it, and I was like, what really makes this groove work so well? And it's the drums. Obviously, Duff McKagan on bass did have a lot to do with that. You have your bass where it helps with the groove, but I think it was Izzy Stradlin who, when he left the band, was like, yeah, no, the sound was never the same after Steven left. And that's the thing. The sound clicked so well together. Everything just kind of fit perfectly musically. It's just personality-wise, the group could never be stable, and it hasn't been stable for 40 fucking years. I mean, at this point, Slash and Duff are back with the band, at least for touring purposes, because they know that if they get Slash and Duff in there, they're gonna make more money than just Axl. Because at this point, I mean, honestly, Axl Rose is a meme. Slash is a fucking god. Duff's there, I guess. I mean, I love Duff McKagan. I love all the Guns N' Roses guys except for probably Axl. I don't know. But the personality-wise, this was just a disaster waiting to happen. It's just the sound, the music that fit together so well in Appetite for Destruction. My favorite song remains fucking Rocket Queen, and Rocket Queen is the last track on the album, and it is just perfect. Like, Rocket Queen is phenomenal. I love how it starts. I love the little twist, like near the end, where it just completely switches gears, and you get like some pounding riffage and some pounding drums that are just like, I love the drums in Rocket Queen so much. Night Train is a close second. It's So Easy. Obviously, I do love the super popular ones, like You're Welcome to the Jungle, Paradise City. Paradise City, Slash just goes fucking insane at the end. I'm like, oh my god, Axl, shut up, because it's just the guitar in that song is phenomenal. But my favorite song is Rocket Queen. I think the moral of that one. Rocket Queen just has so much good in it. It's got the lyrics, it's got the drum parts, it's got the guitar, it's just perfect. And like, the bass in Rocket Queen is great too. It's just phenomenal. It's just a phenomenal album. It is honestly one of the greatest, if not the greatest, albums of all time, for a reason, and that is because these guys made such perfect music together. They really did, and they just there's the drums. People neglect talking about the drums when they talk about this album constantly. I remember reading Chuck Klosterman's Fargo Rock City, and he mentioned, of course, Guns N' Roses, and he even mentioned Rocket Queen as a song that he thought was possibly one of the best on the album. And he didn't mention the drums. I'm like, you had me in the first half there, Chuck, but you can't talk. Appetite for Destruction was so successful because of the drums, and I will stand by that, because there are songs after Appetite that do get a lot of notice. I mean, on the Use Your Illusion albums, you get stuff like November Rain, which is obviously one of the most popular songs. However, You do not see the Use Your Illusion albums up everywhere. You see Appetite for Destruction, because Appetite for Destruction is by far their best album, just in general. Like, it is just by far their greatest album. And so it seems so obvious to me. Like, you just have to ask yourself, like, what changed between Appetite for Destruction and Use Your Illusion 1? The answer is fucking Steven Adler left, or was kicked out, or whatever story you want to believe. Steven Adler's not there anymore, and that makes the albums after bad. Thank you for coming to my TED Talk.